special Islamophobia and then its connection with India and Indian society. But probably being the last speaker, I have left with nothing that probably should be there to share with you, because everything that is right now available about Islamophobia in India in terms of that how corona pandemic is affecting and aggravating the situation for the Muslims. I mean the situation which is in fact inflicting more problems for the Muslims over there. That is also being discussed over there. Hindutva ideology is also being discussed there today, in today's session. Dr. Bakr has also talked about it, that structural kind of Islamophobia is there in India. He has also, in fact, tried to give some theoretical underpinnings of the whole subject. That's also there and being discussed over there. Let me take you to something very interesting about Islamophobia, and then I will be, of course, falling back on just what kind of situation is there right now in India, and I will be trying to discuss this in some theoretical perspective so that we should be able to come up with some kind of solutions for the problem. Unless we diagnose the problem, we won't be able to put up some kind of, prognostics for that. So we need to understand the problem. We need to understand first that what exactly Islamophobia is all about. Dr. Bakr, Dr. Najam has just said something about it, that Islamophobia as a phenomena is not new. This is as much historic as Islam itself. It's 1400 years back when the term Islamophobia, the phenomena of Islamophobia that took place there. For instance, when Islam took birth at the time of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in 7th century, at that time, John of Damascus, the one who was considered to be, you can say the elite of the Christian world, he was saying that a problem has taken birth in shape of Islam. And he was calling that problem, I'm quoting, that problem is problem. This is in the quotes. He used this word, the problem has taken birth in shape of Islam. And this is what he said, that this is nothing but the punishment for the sins, for the unscrupulous sins of Christians and the Christianity. Now we have to be ready for that, because that is posing very grave problems for the entire Christian world. So this was the time when I can trace that Islamophobia virtually took birth, when the other religions of the world started feeling fearful about the growth and, you can say, the emergence of Islam, or very fast spread of Islam across the continents. And then, of course, the whole history is right now in front of you. If those who are watching Al Torah, they might have some idea about it, that how Islam spread. The West started, against Islam, a campaign started, crusades started, 9th century, 10th century, 11th century. 3 crusades started against Muslims, and that virtually destroyed Muslim, or you can say that they weakened Muslim in every sphere, in science, in economy, even in ideology. But still they were unable to, of course, wipe out Islam completely from the map of world. Muslims were there, and some of the weak Muslim states were also there. So this was the time then when they sat together, the whole world, people, those who were considering Islam as an enemy to them, they sat together and started discussing about it, that how to now, contain this kind of menace. Because Islam is very fastly spreading everywhere. It's now moving to, South Asia and in the Asian countries. In 711, here you can see Muhammad bin Qasim is coming. Again in the 711, Tariq bin Ziyad is in fact landing somewhere in Spain. And people spreading from the Arab Peninsula, moving towards China, moving towards the Scandinavian countries. There was, all kind of, all nooks and corners, the Muslims were reaching and spreading Islam and Islam's message, our Prophet's message. So for them, that was something very hard to now contain Islam and its spread, very fast spread. So at that time, they started thinking about it in a different way. Okay, we cannot fight with Muslims with sword. So let's go for something else. We have to have some kind of academic and political onslaught against Muslims. I'm not saying something which is not actually available in the literature. This is in the 13th century Vienne Convention that talks about it. You go and on internet, that the whole recommendations of the Vienne Conventions are there, which happen to take place in Vienne. And what you call is the Vienne Convention of 13th century, where they had this final recommendation that we have to now start an academic and political onslaught against the Muslims, so that the people, those who are not Muslim, should not embrace Islam, and those whosoever are Muslim, they are to be converted into other religions, the Judaism and the Christianity. This was a very systematic way. This was the time when in very systematic way, they started now containing Islam, fighting off Islam's message. And that ushered up absolutely new thing. I mean, you can see the huge number of books were written by many people. Like, for instance, Peter the Venerable, the 13th century Pope, you can say. I mean, he was no less than the place, I mean, he was the most sacred person of Christian world at that time. Peter the Venerable. He was the one who had been given this task that he has to campaign against Muslim Islam and Quran. He was the first who translated Quran into Latin. And that was, in fact, all concocted kind of thing that he translated into that Quran, which was, in fact, what they call it as the Caton's Quran, because Caton was the one who actually translated from Arabic to Latin. And that is still there. I mean, they are following it. I mean, the narrative that they built over there, the books that they wrote against Islam, these narratives are still being carried out the Western media, still being carried out the people, those who are searching on Islam and the Muslims and the prophets. For instance, I can just give you latest example right in front of you. Just Google on it and you can find the whole thesis, the burial episode of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No less than University of Princeton University, New Jersey. Ma'am knows it well. My colleagues, those who are from academia, they can very well understand that Princeton University is the top 10 universities of the world. At that university is producing a research thesis, PhD research thesis under the supervision of Patricia Crone. She just died 4 or 5 months back, and Michael Cook. And what was that? That was burial episode of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And historically, they were proving that how bad that event was actually. I mean, this is really shameful kind of thing that they produced at that point in time, and it still continued. That's why after every couple of years now and then, we find so many people, those writing about Islam. Sometime Salman Rushdie is coming, Taslim Nasreen is coming. You can have William Moore is coming from Edinburgh, against whom Khutbat Ahmadiyya was written by Sir Syed Ahmad Khan as a response to it. So there is actually a huge number of campaign that what you call it is an onslaught, an academic onslaught that started against Muslims and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I normally take it in 3 terms: Islam, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Quran. I mean, in these 3 dimensions, a huge iota of literature is available. Unfortunately, none of things that have been written against Islam by Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Quran, these are available in Pakistan. You go in Bodleian Library of Oxford, you will find a huge number of literature over there. From there, you will be able to find it out that what kind of, polemical things have been written against Islam. So that's in fact not the new business that we are seeing in shape of, creating that kind of clash of ideologies in India. I'm just concluding on that how to declare or how to call the kind of problem that is right now in India. I do not call it as a racist problem. I do not call it something, Indian supremacy or Hindutva over the Muslims. No, I really do not call it. It's today's phenomena. They are in fact trying to give it a color. There is something in the background as well, and we need to understand that background to be able to address this problem, in fact. Why? Because West has given Muslims different titles. This is not so easy a term to understand honestly. I have spent last 13 years over studying Islamophobia. I have started work on Islamophobia first time in University of Surrey in 2008. So it's 13 long years that I am saying that Islamophobia is not a construct which has just a singular dimension. I call it phobias about Islam, phobias towards Islam. I call it a very complex bundle of epistemes, honestly. I call it Islamophobias. And I have also called it that why they do not call it on the terms of anti-Semitism as anti-Islamism. Why the kind of Islamophobia has been given to us. Why it is not Islamism. Okay, I agree with that. If there is some kind of Islamism, I will also be feeling fearful. I don't like Taliban to be here in my country. I mean, the Islamophobia in Muslim majority countries is also there. But they have, in fact, very wisely, I mean, those who are, in fact, making this gimmick for us, they were, in fact, very wisely taking everything. And they have constructed this term for us. And I was amazed that a report, this was published by, most of people, those who are working in Islam, they might know it, That in 1997, this was probably September or October, where Runnymede first time they used it, that this is a term that Islamophobia is in the West, Islamophobia is on the rise in the West. And they used in 1997 Islamophobia term, and they could track it or trace it, that first time this term was in use or was used by Tariq Budud in 1991 in a fortnightly newspaper in the United States. Name was Insight. Insight was the name of the newspaper where it was first time appearing. This is my own research, which is available in this book. This book is available. I would request Zilehuma that whosoever is interested to get this copy of book, you just get yourself registered with her. I will be then sending you the book, copy of the book. I tracked Islamophobia, the term Islamophobia. I'm not talking Islamophobia as a phenomenon. I'm talking about Islamophobia as a term. I traced it up to more than 110 years. So more than 110 years. While the most celebrated work on Islamophobia by Runnymede in 1997, they are saying that this was first time in use in United States newspaper, fortnightly newspaper Insight, and the one who used was Tariq Budud. No, it was in use in 1965 in a research journal. It was in English literature in use in 1923 by Stanley Cook in Journal of Theology, and the title of his paper was Origin of Religion. And on first page, in very introduction of his paper, in his article, he used the word Islamophobia in the same terms with the same meanings that we are using Islamophobia now. I'm talking in 1923. And then in French literature, first time it was in use in 1910. It was used as Islamophobia, because this is, I might be wrong in calling it or pronouncing it properly, Islamophobia, but it is the same word what we now call Islamophobia. This was used in a PhD thesis by Alan Quellen, where he was in fact a Navy officer, and once they were going to attack the Africans, so they were having some fearful feelings about them. So he was calling it as an Islamophobia, and they call it as Islamophobia. So Islamophobia is in fact French Islamophobia. So in 1910, the Islamophobia is there. Even I find some traces, we have to get authenticated. In 1890 somewhere, I found Islamophobia word in use in Spanish literature. So Islamophobia is not all new, honestly. Why we are being given this, that Islamophobia is a neology? Someone is saying that Islamophobia is a neology, a new term in the literature. No, it's not a neology, come on. This is more than 125 years that I'm tracing, and I'm saying that Islamophobia term was even in use. And what to talk about Islamophobia as a phenomena. So why Islamophobia is so famous? Why Islamophobia is so important for all of us to discuss today? And why Islamophobia is so important for the West to talk about? And the Western media and all that. Because this is a very paying industry. Because Islamophobia is a very paying industry, a very lucrative industry, honestly. You say something about Islam, put that on your social media, and you will see that hundreds and millions of people are there to click it. And every click counts, you see. 10, 40, 50, 60 clicks, $1 it means. So I would like to say something about Islam so that I should be able to earn more money. So is Pamela Geller. Every time she writes something on her website, and then she would see that millions of people are in 1 hour, they are just touching her website. And what comes out of it? The money comes out of it. Why Terry Jones is saying things like that? Why the Naveen right now in India? Just 2 weeks back, Naveen was saying something on his Facebook page about my Prophet ﷺ in India, Bangalore, the Indian Silicon Valley. And after that, you see a lot many riots erupted. 3 Muslims killed over there. More than 150 were arrested, and the FIRs have been lodged against them. And he was saying something bad. He was putting my Prophet ﷺ in the dark light. And now you see where he is. From Indian Silicon Valley he flew to the California Silicon Valley. Now he is there because he earned that much money because of the act that he has committed. So it's a big industry. It's a big industry. Nakola Besle Nakola, the one who produced Innocence of Muslims, And a 14-minute trailer that was placed on YouTube, probably 2013 it was. We requested the Google and YouTube to please offload it. They did not do it. And then what we had to do it? We had to close down YouTube for 2 years almost. And Nakola himself was saying that I was paid 500 million US dollars to produce this, or you can say the animation kind of thing that he produced. So 500 million US dollar that was paid to him by the Jewish lobby. This is FBI report where it says that there are more than 982 hate groups only in the United States are operating. So who's behind them? Who's pouring money to them? We need to, in fact, find it out. That's why I'm, in fact, calling upon this thing. I'm calling upon this thing, that we should, just like FATF, why FATF is so stringently introducing its protocol in Pakistan, because the money flow in Pakistan might be diverted towards terrorism and terrorist activities. And we are agreeing to each and every protocol that they are giving. So why don't we say this thing to the West world over there? Why should not they control their money? Their own agencies are saying this money is diverted to these hate mongers, and they are creating, you see, hatred against Muslims and Islam. So I think we need to have this kind of, you see, propagation of these ideas that we have to keep check on the money. Like the All President's Man, you might have watched this movie. If you want to reach to the real criminal, follow the money. So in this case, that who is behind Islamophobia? Who is in fact making it industry? Who is trying to get some profitable things out of it? We need to have, of course, this kind of demand that we have to follow the money. FATF-like thing, I mean, the Islamophobia monitoring and the steps that are supposed to be done in Western world, that should also be, in fact, introduced in the United States, the UK, in Germany, in Australia. Why Pegida is on the rise? You know Pegida? This has become a movement in Germany now. This was initially a social movement, social media movement. But now that has become a social movement. Pegida, this is in fact a German abbreviation of which English translation is Patriotic Europeans Against the Islamization of Occidents. No, Fogida. Now, this has taken a different name in the United States, Stop Islamization of the United States. I mean, you see, the whole world is doing things like that for the prophets. They have, you see, ideological differences between them as well. Last point, I'm so sorry taking a few more minutes, few extra minutes. Last point. Sir, you said that majority is scared of minority in India. I really don't think anything like that. Like Fred Holiday, he says, problems are not Muslims. Problem is Islam, the ideology. In India, problems are not Muslims. It's the ideology that they carry. The religious ideology that they carry, that is problematic for them. Because that ideology is, in fact, you see, controlling things over there, and it's, of course, reaching out to the other parts of the world. And this is the ideology, in fact, that is linking with the entire Muslim world, which is more than 1.7 billion people across the Indian continent. So they are scared of it, because they are not just few people, 20 million, 200 million people, those who are living in India. Rather, they are, in fact, 200 million Muslims in India, having backing of 1.7 billion people across the world. That, in fact, scares them the more. Once they grow here, and once they get the power, there is a possibility that they will, of course, put us back into more than 100 years back when the Mughals were there to rule in India. So that thing, I think, which scares them the most. That's why these all Corona Jihad and Talibani crimes and all these kind of terms have been coined against them so that they should be isolated economically, socially, in all the fashions. Thank you very much. Grateful to the Information Service Academy, to the Ministry of Information that they have arranged this beautiful program and given me an opportunity to talk say a few words about Islamophobia. Thank you very much, sir.